This is my stock oil injection tank, and it's made of really sturdy plastic, and it's custom fit. As you can see, it has a little bit of dirt on it. Remember, this is 17 years old. It came with the bike. My bike's a 93. But what I want to show you is that even though you can keep your oil or water or alcohol tanks as good as you want, I want to show you the outlet. I haven't taken this apart in years and years and years, but as you can see where the filter goes in, this is the crap. I shouldn't say it. This is the effluents? No. It's hard to think. This is some of the things that got in the tank that didn't get past the filter. Now on this nipple right here, it just has a rubber plug-in, and I'll show you that. Honda designs things simply but efficiently, and as you can see, they've lasted the test of time. I'll move the seat back. But right here, this is where it plugs in at, and as you can see, it goes right down to my switch, and this is held on with a clamp here. But that is a very fine mesh filter that is all part of this unit. I don't think you can buy it. You can buy it separately. The nice thing about this, in having the filter built in, is that with the water injection nozzles, and you can get them in different sizes, they're easy to get plugged up, and you might as well have your problem right here instead of down at the firing end. And we can see that I put in my tank deal here. It's still loose because I have to put the oil tank back on. This comes down to a 90-degree angle, goes over to the little tiny filter, and then that'll go over here. And you have to remember, now this is words of advice, is you want to leave enough hose, just a little bit extra, so that if you ever have to change the jet or drop this carburetor down to work on it, to get a screwdriver on these screws to change the needle slide valve or anything else, you want to leave just a little bit extra so that you can have some room to work on it. I like to clear fuel line too, because I can kind of see what's going to the car. Now I'll clean the tank up here, and I'll reinstall it. But I'm going to go straight distilled water in this one. I'm going to give it a try. My water injection books tell me that cars and planes and tractors work better on rainy days for a reason. It's because the air is cooler, but it has more water vapor in it, which allows a greater amount of a greater amount of cooled air to enter your engine. Because when your engine is hot and your air is rushing through here and it hits the reed valve, and then you've got an engine probably 150, 60, more degrees, whatever. But what happens is your air expands, and when the air expands and goes into the cylinder, you get less air, the same amount of fuel, but you will get a more powerful bang. So if you have cooled down water, and this is the same theory with intercooling. Intercooling is a little bit different with turbos, because turbos can spin up to 100,000 RPMs a minute, and the turbine blades are moving so fast that when the air, even cold air, when it hits those blades, the friction causes the air to heat up, so you have heated air that goes into your engine and you have less bang. That's why they intercool the air before it gets to the turbine to allow more condensed air to go down into the engine and into the cylinder and create a bigger bang. Now let me put it this way. I will explain the theory of horsepower, which is very simple. An engine creates power in our system of gasoline engines or petrol, whatever you want to call it. The more air and fuel that you can run through an engine, the more horsepower you'll create. Therefore, to fool a smaller engine into thinking it's a larger engine, you want to put more fuel and more air into that cylinder or into that engine. That's where supercharging comes into effect. You overpressure the cylinder and you create more air, which creates a bigger bang, which in the theory of horsepower, you've added more air and more fuel to the engine and create more horsepower. Now turbos, and I've built both turbos and superchargers. I really like superchargers better because they sound better, they look better, especially if you have a 3-inch belt. 2-inch belt is for sissies. But with a overdriven, 10% overdriven supercharger, you're cramming more air and gas into the engine. It's run off the belt. It's also run off of the crankshaft. So the faster the crankshaft moves, it has a smaller pulley on the bottom. The top pulley right here is 10% larger, so it gives you 10% overdriven amount. On turbos, the compressor, like this 671 GMC blower, the compressor is the impeller. There's an impeller on the intake, and there is a turbine on the exhaust. But the driving force is the exhaust. What happens is you have the same amount of air and fuel. I'll put this in layman's terms. You have the same amount of air and fuel entering the engine as it leaves. So if you have 10 cubic feet of air entering the cylinder, you'll have 10 cubic feet of air leaving the cylinder. The theory of turbines or turbos is that as the air leaves the cylinder, it gets hotter and it expands, like we talked about expanding. Now, with the expanding exhaust gases, which can reach up to 1500 degrees, that creates an overpressure on the turbine side of the turbo. And the turbine and the impeller are connected together. They both run at the same speed. So if you have more overpressure on the exhaust side, it creates an overpressure on the impeller side or the intake side, and that gives you the turbo effect. And the more that you the faster you go, the faster the turbine effect. Now what Porsche has done, which is amazing, which I'll have to end this video very soon, what they have done is they're able to take their impeller blades on the intake side and they're able to adjust them so there is no turbo lag. And that's just amazing to me, how anyone could do that with a titanium impeller that runs at 100,000 RPM. Now when I say 100,000 RPMs, as soon as you shut your car off with a turbo at full speed, the turbine itself can run for 15 minutes before it slows down. That's a theory. Okay, that's my theory on horsepower.